iPhone 14, will it be Apple's first failed launch? And there's a pun in there. This video is brought to you by iCave merch, more on that later. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. iPhones arrive every year like clockwork, even if that one time COVID did slow the clock down just a little bit. And we can always rely on a new chip arriving with them, but rumour has it that this year the iPhone will get last year's chip and be the most boring release ever. What? As far back as March, Ming Chi reported that the iPhone 14 would still be using the iPhone 13's A15 with the 14 Pro getting the A16 inside. That's a lot of numbers, but don't worry, it will all make sense soon. This has never happened in the past. Every year since the iPhone 4, the first iPhone to get custom silicon inside, 12 years ago, we've got an incremental improvement in the chip inside each new iPhone. Except one year, when two iPhones were released together with different A-series chips inside. Now, I'll wait while you post your guess in the comments as to which one that was. All done? Cool. It was the year that Apple released both the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 5C. The iPhone 5S had the first ever mobile 64-bit SoC inside, with the A7 with dual Cyclone cores, and the iPhone 5C, the colourful new plastic coat on the iPhone 5, with its 32-bit A6, with a single 1.3 GHz Swift core. Here endeth the quiz. But it seems that in 2022, we're getting this again, and it might set a precedent. Of course, Apple could sidestep controversy by doing what they did for the Apple Watch Series 7, and just writing a new number on the old chip. That could cause confusion with the iPhone 14 Pro, but maybe we get an A16 in the iPhone 14 and an A16 Pro in the Pro iPhones this year. More in line with the way that they're naming the Mac chips. So A16 is basically A15 with a new label, A16 Pro is just what we would have got as A16 in the first place. Now, whether the chip speed bump will make any difference to those buying a regular iPhone is less clear anyway. Ask any of your muggle friends what chip is inside their iPhone and they'll probably have no clue, not really care, and call you a geek for knowing what's in yours. It's probably a non-issue for 99% of people, but what else are we expecting from these next iPhones? What is going to make the difference? That could be more of an issue. Basically, every rumour that we've seen so far relates to the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, the strange-looking pill hole cutout that I like to call the iHole, the probably always-on display that needs Pro motion and variable refresh rates, probably not something coming to the mere mortal version. However, we're also hearing 8K video recording too, with a 48 megapixel main sensor. Now that could be something that comes to the 14 nothing, but there's no guarantees. We've also heard over the past couple of days that satellite communication that was leaked just before the last iPhone introduction in September of 2021 might actually be coming this year. Now, the feature would allow short messages to be sent, reportedly around 50 characters, via satellite when there's no cellular signal available. Now, it's quite possible that this is via the Globalstar network, which has 24 satellites in low Earth orbit. Globalstar also has a relatively new customer that spent $300 million with them to purchase 17 new satellites. The most recent of these launched just 4 days ago by SpaceX on the Falcon 9 in a strangely secretive launch. I say this because Globalstar has a satellite which weighs about 700 kilograms, which means that Falcon 9 booster should have been able to return to the launch site for its landing with no real issue. But they landed downrange on a drone ship instead and showed nothing of the second stage payload deployment, so there could well have been a classified government payload sharing the ride. Or Apple didn't want you to see the glowing logo on the side of the satellite. One of those two. The satellite communications could well be a Pro-only feature as well, but as it's intended to be a safety feature, it could well be one that they tie in with the car crash detection that we've already heard about. Perhaps it would be available on all of these models. Now, don't confuse this is no Starlink, this is an emergency feature. This is not something you will use to access the internet and that kind of thing. But Globalstar covers around 80% of the Earth's surface with its satellite network, and my guess would be that the poles are the two areas that don't have coverage, as staggered inclined orbits would be able to sweep across most of the rest of the surface pretty regularly. Now, that means that messages might not also send instantly, but within about 5 minutes or so when there's a satellite in view overhead. The other concern with satellite communications was the battery drain, even for a short message, but here's where this does kind of make sense. What we do know is coming to the iPhone 14 Max, or Plus, or whatever they call it, is that bigger screen. The Mini is dead, long live the Max. So it is going to have a much bigger battery. The biggest problem with the Minis was that short battery life. But is that it? An old chip and most of the flagship features seemingly being reserved for the Pro iPhones, is it going to be enough? I guess only time will tell. The other ways that Apple could differentiate it now would be colours. So right now we have green, pink, blue, midnight, starlight and product red, and these base iPhones have always gone with the glossy back and matte coloured sides, which are colour matched. Now I've said for years that offering custom colour combinations would look really cool, especially as an online exclusive, like getting engraved is currently. Now, we even mocked some of these colours up, admittedly for the 14 Pro models, with Apple Tomorrow for our What If Apple Bought Disney, with some Marvel-inspired colour combinations, which I think look pretty cool. But we all know that Apple is a style brand, and a lot of people just want to be seen that they have the latest and greatest version. So new colours would work, but let's be honest, when I bought my iPhone XS, when it was released, I bought the gold version. I didn't particularly like the gold, it's too blingy for a simple chap like me, and the colour on the back was basically the 80s PC beige, but it was the new colour with the 10 only available in silver and black, and I wanted to be able to show that mine was a XS and not a 10. I'm that shallow, and so are a lot of us. So it could well be that the iPhone 14 is basically the 13 in a new, more colourful coat, just like the iPhone 5C, but you know, not made of plastic. But is that going to be enough? Or will the iPhone 14 be the most disappointing iPhone in years? Let me know in the comments. And next, let's get into your iCave answers. Alan B Unboxings and News asks iCave Answers, do you think Apple would put on the iPhone 14 range MagSafe wireless charging 2nd generation? At the moment, we don't even have any idea on what 2nd generation would be. We talked in the last episode a little bit about potentially MagSafe getting some sort of data transfer technology. I'm not 100% sure that they'll do that. That would be helpful, I guess, especially if they're going to go full portless, but it looks like we're still going to get ports this year. Next year, they would be forced to go to a USB-C port, if they keep the port around at all. That might be when we change it over. We might be getting data over MagSafe, maybe using ultra-wideband between the two things, because you know it's going to be dead close and it's going to be very, very fast at that point. But as it was pointed out to me yesterday by Tony in the comments section, Apple has got a patent for doing optical data transfer between like iPhone cameras and like flashing a light basically, and it could be up to terabit speeds. That's pretty cool. Maybe that is something that will be coming to the notch of MacBook Pros and stuff like that as well, because there's plenty of room there. But in terms of a 2nd generation of MagSafe wireless charging, it could be that they up the speed of charging as well, especially if it is going to come to the iPads and the iPad Pros in their next generation too. So maybe we're going to go up to 20 watts, 25 watts, maybe even 30 watts over MagSafe. Just realised I sounded a bit like Trump then. You know, 5 watts, you know, 10, 20, maybe even 100% unemployment. Peter Garner asks, iCave Answers, you have to have the attached keyboard and mouse to use an external monitor. What about universal control? Would a 2-monitor setup on the cheap with a MacBook Air, an iPad and 2 odd monitors work? Both Apple devices being limited to one external display. And actually, yeah, this is a pretty good idea. I think you could do that. I think you could universal control through an iPad onto its external display. I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, it's going to be a blooming complicated looking setup on your screen, but yeah, that sounds like a really cool idea. I haven't tried it. I don't have an M1 based iPad, but if anyone out there can give that a go, let me know if it works. Want some not too in-your-face Apple goodness to stop yourself being naked this summer, or to hold a refreshing cup of coffee? Head over to iCaveDave.com/merch, where you can find definitely not tea-compatible coffee mugs like this one that is full of coffee. Coffee is not included with your purchase. Also, clothes and bags and things which might feature some classic Macs, or the dark mode switch, because the dark mode is the only mode, and I'll fight you on that. iCaveDave.com/merch. Thank you to me for sponsoring me and my video today. Me. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the patrons for being pretty damn cool, and look how attractive they all are. See you next time. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.